Okay. Lovely. So hello and welcome. Another week and another meditation. So the invitation, first of all, is to take up a position. Well, first, would you mind muting your mics if you haven't yet? You can turn your camera off just so that we have a lovely clear sound. And see if you can take a position for your body that feels really yummy. Great. That feels really yummy. What do I mean by yummy? It's like it feels really nourishing, that is luxuriating for you. There's no right way to meditate. My personal view is that there are as many ways to meditate as there are finite beings. That's about 8 billion different ways. So see if you can allow your body just to be in this moment in time, allowing it to be soft, natural, and being with the breath. And immediately, just as I take a breath in, I'm so in awe and gratitude. That's what lands for me. I get to do another one of these sessions. I get to play and explore, be creative. Playfulness and creativity, one of the qualities of self. So see what's present. It's evening time for me in the UK, but wherever you are, it's probably morning time. Are there some parts of us that only surface at particular times of the day? Notice if there's different parts here. If it's morning for you, are these morning parts different to the afternoon or the evening parts, or the 3 a.m. part that wakes us in the middle of the night, still needing to be heard, still wanting to tell its story? And as always, we unroll the welcome mat. So that could be in your mind's eye, picturing a yoga mat, picturing a magic carpet, I always love to think about Rumi's field of no right or wrongdoing, where we can all meet. A meadow. And this welcome mat that we unroll is the self. The self here can welcome even the 3 a.m. part. Self is not really attached to what time of the morning, day or night it is. And maybe other parts that surface that have something to say. If I don't fall asleep now, I'll be tired. I won't be able to work. I won't look after my family well. I won't be at my best. Notice how those thoughts, opinions, and beliefs come from another part. Self simply is. So see if we can roll out any welcome mat for any parts that are present here. And if you've only just woken up, wherever you are in the world, you may well have a part that might say, oh, I didn't sleep well last night. See if this can be a sign to go deeper in, to get closer, to hold this part even closer in, make it more dear to you. Notice what is present. Notice what is moving through you. Sometimes the way we can conceptualize self and parts is to use the analogy of the open sky as self, that spacious, receptive field within which clouds can move in and out. Sometimes the ocean feels like a better fit. So the totality of the ocean as the self, and then each of the parts as the individual waves. See which one suits you best. And again, just as there is no such a thing as the correct way to meditate, there are as many ways as there are finite beings, each of the body minds. Similarly, with the analogy that works for our unique inner world, may be different for each one of us. And this is why we pose or suggest different pointers as ways to conceptualize. And again, there's no right or wrong. Everything is an invitation to test it out, try it out. See if this is a good fit for you. curiosity of self allows us to try on different perspectives, different lenses, different ways of being. And we can be as creative as we want. I've known people who are only able to feel parts as a bodily sensation. I've known people who are able to get very clear visuals or images of the parts. People who just have a blank. They can't discern parts. These parts will show up in different bodies. It could be the physical body, the emotional body, the mental body. Typically, a lot of people can discern some tension in the neck, maybe some feelings in the throat, maybe some heaviness or tightness or tingling in the chest, in the tummy. There are multiple ways, multiple paths. There are multiple roads that will lead us home. And here I'm not speaking about a physical home out there in the world, but a home inside you, that sense of belonging, first and foremost, to you, to yourself, self with a capital S here. And what is home for you? How does home feel and translate through the body? Paying attention to very subtle shifts in the physical, emotional, mental, spiritual body. What does coming home feel like for these different parts? And see if you might even discern some parts for whom home feels completely different to other parts. For some parts, home feels like playfulness, joy, fun, For others, it feels like when you're in a peaceful setting. Noticing the flavors of the different qualities. And there might be some parts here that just feel completely lost and confused about what home even is. And extending warmth to all those parts that are still stumbling around the woods, searching for home. See if you can show them the face of self. Open arms, gentle smile. Tenderness, compassion emanating. In self, we can be confident. We can be creative. We can be courageous. We can be compassionate. We can have clarity. Curiosity. Connection. And calm. See if your parts can now glimpse even the smallest sliver of home. And in my inner world, for the very, very little youngest parts, there's a sense of Christmas every day. It's this magic, awe, wonder, playfulness. The more mature parts here. For them, home also is very calm and peaceful. There's calm and peace every day here for these parts. And I'm noticing some in-between parts, teenage parts, just the sense of disco, party, ecstatic dance, 5 rhythms. This is what self is. Self has the capacity to be just the right essence for each and every part of us. It cannot be that there's a part that is unable to receive from self. Self has that capacity for all encompassing, all inclusive. See how your parts receive this. See if you can continue to show the parts, the face of self. And the face of self is infinite. Doesn't necessarily have to have a face like a human face, but it can be a felt warmth, a hug, an internal hug in the body. It can be an open-hearted sensation. It can be non-resistance. So the face of self is infinite. See if your parts can begin to trust that whatever they need or needed, self can now give that effortlessly, freely, joyously. And although the parts, the ones that still are as yet to glimpse self, they still very much feel on their own, still in the shadows. If we compare the parts as clouds and self is the open sky, it cannot be that any cloud is in shadow whatsoever. Even on the most cloudy of days, the light of self, the sun, still shines through. So the hope here is that no matter how far removed the parts appear to be from self, they are already shining with self, as self, through self energy. And that may be hard for some parts to understand. Or to accept. And sometimes metaphors and analogies seem to work better with younger parts that don't quite understand yet. See if you can show them the truth that no matter how cloudy the day is, no matter how many layers thick the cloud cover is, daylight is still there. The sun is still filtering through everything that appears in the vast, infinite spaciousness of the sky. Paradoxically, they're already home. They're already immersed in the allness of self. When we say phrases like walking home, what it really means is removing the blocks to our awareness of already being home. And in IFS, this is very skillfully and beautifully done by asking the parts to unblend, to give us a little bit of space so that they can glimpse self. An analogy for that is that if you imagine your perception faculty as self, and you wanting to look at the details of your hand, if you hold up your hand very close to your eyes and try to focus on the hand here is like a part. Try as you might, you won't really be able to see your hand when it's very close to your eye. What we need to do is move the hand a little bit further away. And in so doing, this is this paradoxical step where by moving the hand further away, we actually start to get it into better focus. And when we start to see things, we can care for them. And so this allows the parts to realize that actually self is here already without us having to actually do anything. We may need to do this multiple times. We may need to keep asking the parts to give us a little bit of space, nearly every waking moment. Sometimes this is what it takes. These parts have been here a long time. They have a very strong belief in their roles. And so this isn't initially, it doesn't appear to be effortless. There appears to be some effort that is required. Notice that the effort doesn't come from self. Self doesn't do efforting. The effort is for the part to realize that the more spacious it becomes, the more of the 8 C's and the 5 P's it will have access to. An analogy for that is if we go back to the notion of the cloud, all we're doing is allowing for the clouds to gently dissipate. Which is not a requirement for self. Self is here, but it is a necessity for the part to be able to tune into self. It almost needs to make itself invisible, see-through, so that the light of self can shine through. And then that's how it can receive the warmth. So what we're doing as we're navigating this, we're building trust. We're building trust. We're building a relationship between parts to self. And once that relationship is established and in full flow, there's generally much more ease, less blending or veiling of the parts. And generally, the more self is visible, the less effort is needed from the parts. So we become much more relaxed. The edges of the parts can soften much quicker, even without having to unblend or give us a little bit of space. Each time we contract less, each time we relinquish quicker. It's not for the sake of self. Self absolutely doesn't mind. It's so that the parts can continue to receive the support, the nourishment, the compassion from self, so that they can feel it. And the more this becomes natural, the less willingness there is to either blend or veil or contract into a storyline, a belief, a thought, a feeling that doesn't feel aligned with self. And so eventually when the parts look at the face of self, they see themselves shining as self. Yes, this is me. All of me shining as self, allowing movements, sensations, and so it's just like going back to that notion of Rumi's field. In Rumi's field, it doesn't matter if there's a dandelion growing, or a tulip, or a rose. There's no notion of this is a weed, this is not useful. The field rejoices in the multiplicity and diversity, knowing that all along it's one field. How lovely to express as all these different colors and manifestations. This is again the paradox of the both and. At one level, viewing through self, there's just the totality of self. And then at the other level, focused perception down into a part. And this is what we're all here for. To allow the unique qualities to come through. Guided, supported, facilitated by self. The rose lives with the thorn. If you crush the petals of a rose, you get a beautiful fragrance. Have you ever tried crushing the thorns? Even more beautiful. The two perfectly existing within one space, within one field. See how it feels to return to the welcome mat that we started with, however that presented for you. Can you see, can you tune into even the smallest of glimpses of what Sid calls perfection, beauty, and innocence in each of the parts? See if you can just, in these last few moments, really focus on any part that wants to spend some time with you. And so often we tend to focus and place the greatest emphasis on the burdened parts. But perhaps the unburdened parts, or the never burdened parts, want to be seen as well, want to spend some joyful time and share their joy. Give that part just a few more breaths. Let it know that you are here. And letting your inner world know that we're going to transition in a few moments. Into our sharing circle. And really sending gratitude, if that feels right, to your inner family. Sending gratitude for the home that they are in, that they are part of, that they belong to. And tuning into your breath more consciously now. Noticing the presence of your body sat on the surface that you're on. Tuning into any external sounds. Thank you.